Now, details from the case are still emerging at this point, with experts describing Kohberger's white Elantra as a rolling crime scene. Some of the evidence police seized, including a knife sheath left behind at the victim's home, could be the key to a potential conviction. And that home near University of Idaho set to be demolished, and the victim's parents, raising concerns now that the jury will not be able to visit that crime scene in person during this trial. NewsNation was exclusively able to obtain a letter the university sent to the victims' families asking them to retrieve their deceased children's belongings. Joining us now to discuss the Kohberger trial, former CIA officer and FBI Special Agent Tracy Walder. Tracy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Natasha.
So, Tracy, let's start with Idaho's governor allowing firing squad executions, only the 5th state to allow firing squads for death row inmates. There are special circumstances that have to be met, right? And how likely is it that Kohberger could actually face this?
So that's an interesting question. As you mentioned, there's only 5 states really now that would have that as an option. And really what I think we need to remember is that is in response to the fact that the drug that is used for lethal injection has become scarce. And there have been issues with the administration of it, resulting in people not passing away right away, having these kind of torturous deaths, which really is a violation of their constitutional rights. And so that is why they added this other option. There's been a little confusion as to was this added because of Kohberger? No, it was not. It's really in response to this shortage of the lethal injection drug. Look, if he gets the death penalty, is this on the table? Absolutely. But we would need to look at what the supply of the lethal injection drug is, because it wouldn't be administered as a choice to him. It's an if this is not allowed thing for him.
Okay, understood. And help us understand what experts mean describing Kohberger's white Elantra as a rolling crime scene.
So, I've always felt that the car was the key to this case. And I've said that really all along. I figured once they found the car, it would really lead them to the suspect. The car, they did say in that warrant that became unsealed that the car really had been disassembled completely by law enforcement. And I really do think we have to remember when he got done, allegedly committing these crimes, he got back into that vehicle. He had to have been bathed in some kind of biological evidence, microscopic biological evidence. And I do think that that evidence was still kind of hanging out in the nooks and crannies of his car, to the point that he would have had to have taken it apart himself in order to make all of that biological evidence go away. And so I really do think that is what is going to be the most damaging and the largest amount of ammunition that the prosecution has in this case.
And we did see it was potentially significant in the Murdaugh trial when the jury was able to visit the site of the crime in person. Do you think that in this case, the victim's parents are rightly concerned that a jury will not have the option to do that if the house is demolished?
I can understand their perspective. I think in the Murdaugh trial, like you mentioned, look, that was a large property and large distances that they were talking about, and that was helpful to the jury to go there and be able to see that. I think in this case, one of the things that the parents of the victims might be thinking about is kind of that time, understanding how quickly he made it from the from the 3rd floor to the 2nd floor and then out of the house, really without being noticed or confronted. And I do think that it's going to be difficult with, I know, the 3D modeling that was done of the house to really pinpoint that time. And so I can understand where they're coming from. However, I do think that the 3D models are going to provide an excellent representation to the jury of the crime scene.
All right, really appreciate that, Tracy. And we're learning a little bit more from a source here at NewsNation about Kohberger's actual experience as he's being held at this point, being considered a maximum security inmate. We know that he is allowed to take phone calls in jail and that he's allowed to have headphones for privacy so that investigators cannot listen in to his calls. Does that detail surprise you at all?
Yes and no. So we have to remember he's being held at a jail, not a prison, right? Because he is awaiting his arraignment and trial. And so I think we have to remember the confines of this facility. It's not set up necessarily for the privacy that he is entitled under the law, that attorney-client privilege privacy. And so while it makes me uncomfortable, I'm not sure that there was another option that they had in terms of keeping these conversations private.
Okay, I really appreciate that detail, and I know several of our viewers were posting that question online, so thank you. Tracy Walder, appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.